Hello and welcome to Raise the Game Showcase, highlighting all the companies in the UK games industry who have gotten involved in the pledge and taking a look at their experiences 1 year on. I'm your host, Shay Thompson, and to give you an idea of what's to come, we'll be having a chat with founding pledge members like Facebook Gaming and Electronic Arts. We've got a ton of really cool trailers for you, and also we'll be chatting with a panel of industry experts and getting their take on the current state of representation in games. We've got so much to look forward to, and to kick us off, we'll be chatting with Dr. Joe Twist, the CEO of Ukie, to get a refresher on what the Raise the Game pledge is. So, to refresh everyone's memory, could you tell us what the Raise the Game pledge is in your own words?
In my own words, well, the pledge was really an attempt at trying to help the industry diversify and become more inclusive. I mean, we know that we've got 3 billion people who play games across the world, but actually, you know, the people who make games in the workforce, perhaps it's not as representative as the people who play our games. So we found that out. We did a big census, which was the first of its kind, a big report into who works in the UK games industry. And that revealed some really interesting things. And so we know that for a long time, I think the industry has really recognized this as something that they want to do. So we just galvanized and created this pledge with the help of some founding companies. And really, it's a very simple 3-pillar commitment, really. So it's tremendous that it's a year on, and actually so much progress has been made already.
So talking about the progress specifically, you know, we're a year on from starting. How has it gone so far?
It's been incredible. People are really, really eager to sign up, because I think because we've got these 3 very simple commitments, it's not about everyone just doing everything at once. You know, it's hard to change workplace culture sometimes. It's a real challenge. And by sharing knowledge and by taking people on a journey, everyone can learn from each other and make small differences that actually, create massive change. So we've had about over 100 companies sign up in the year that we've launched the pledge. And the commitments are really very simple. The first is around making sure that when you're recruiting, you are going that extra step and learning from others about how to widen that recruitment pool. And I think particularly for me, around socioeconomic groups is really important, particularly during the year that we've had, the pandemic year. The second one is then sort of really thinking about workplace culture. And I know that a lot of our workplaces are now in our bedrooms, but, you know, it's about company culture, and it's about, you know, how you create safe spaces and a welcoming, inclusive place to work, wherever you're working from. And then the third is, which I think comes when a lot of people have managed to make those first 2 commitments, the third is around on-screen representation, you know, and having games that really you can relate to whoever you are through the characters or the storylines or the plot lines. So, you know, those 3 simple pledge pillars, we've made it really clear that people just are not expected to change everything, like I said, overnight. It is about taking people on that journey. So it's been really brilliant to see people, you know, really stepping up and wanting to share their experience.
Absolutely. And like you said, you know, over 100... Sorry, I'm going to do that again. And like you said, over 100 companies have been involved. Have there been any standout case studies so far?
Yeah, we're actually going to be publishing a report to just show people what changes companies have made. Again, it's about that sharing of knowledge and sharing of that experience that people have, so that others can learn. And, you know, we've seen some really interesting things, like Mediatonic, for instance, have a whole set of culture ambassadors within their organization. And that is really important. You know, this has to come from, you know, again, the leadership committing to change in workplaces, but also people in the workforce themselves being those kind of ambassadors and those leaders in their own right. King is another great example. They've got this inclusive leadership program, which lets managers have conversations with actors on inclusive topics to see where biases may kick in, and so that they can correct them. And the one that I wish I'd been part of was in RuneScape. They had their first ever virtual Pride Parade in June, which I think is just such a brilliant idea. And I think, you know, again, during this pandemic year, our games as stages and places to be where people are connecting and, you know, keeping each other other company and having fun together. Those are exactly the kinds of places where we should be having our virtual parades and our virtual celebrations too.
Absolutely. It seems like a complete no-brainer. So, this is framed, the entire pledge is framed as an ongoing journey. Where does the industry need to go to keep improving its EDI record?
Well, I think it is about sharing that knowledge, and again, being able to provide the spaces where people can learn from each other. We do, particularly during this year that we've had, it is a challenge. The pandemic has changed the way in which people can recruit, the way that we're onboarding people, our very nature of our workplaces. So it is a challenge, but the only way we can move forward as an industry is by talking, listening, and sharing each other's experiences and stories and celebrating those successes, no matter how small a move or a kind of how small a part you think you're playing. All of this adds up to big change. So I think it is just about continuing to raise the profile, to continue to share the experience and to share what works and what doesn't. And also just to really highlight some things that may surprise people. Again, we're all on this journey together.
Yeah, you definitely can't act like you know it all, and I really love the kind of collective effort behind all of that. So obviously we've touched on it a little bit, but what impact do you think that COVID has had on EDI this year, and how do you think it might shape like how the industry approaches inclusivity in the future?
I think it's really offered us, and it's given a lot of companies, I think, the confidence that actually remote and flexible working can work. I think we've had this big cultural sort of barrier in a lot of industries, including games industry, about remote working and more flexible working. That isn't to say that this isn't without its issues. And we need to, I think, really make sure that we're investing more in supporting people's mental health over the next couple of years, I would say. But it's always been a huge, I think, area that we need to really make sure we're helping people. We're all humans, games are not made by computers. Games are made by humans. So I think we need to really be mindful of that. I think it does show that we can do this, but again, it does mean that we can stretch across boundaries like geography, where you're located. Perhaps I think I'm interested in understanding how much more accessible it makes our industry, as a kind of sector, when it comes to disability and when it comes to different accessibility needs. I think that for me is a really interesting area that we'd love to explore further. But I think generally it has been difficult for people. The industry has continued to recruit and continue to hire people throughout the pandemic, unlike quite a lot of other sectors who've had to freeze on hiring. But, it is a reality that means that we haven't really been together in our workplaces. And sort of, I think we are going to get back to that. But that has really impacted us, I think, it's impacted everyone. But I think it has offered up some different ways of thinking about how we work and the flexibility and the choice and the inclusivity that we can nurture within our industry.
Absolutely. And lastly, what would you say to companies who are, thinking about joining the pledge but haven't quite made that step yet?
Do it. Have the confidence. You will be amongst so many amazing companies and so many amazing people who are making real change. And again, this is about developing. This is about learning. And this is about learning what works, what doesn't work. And that sharing of knowledge is absolutely critical, particularly during this time. So sign up, no matter, it doesn't matter that you haven't made that step on that journey. This is about making that first step. Again, no matter how big or small you think it is, it makes a difference, just even by joining.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Jo. We've got loads more coming up for you. Wonderful stuff from Jo there. So now that we've had our refresher, it's time to hear from some of the founding pledge partners who initially signed on. Let's see how they got on in the last year and what advice they have for those of you who are yet to make the jump. They've got loads of insight, so let's have a look and see how they got on. How and why did your company sign up to the pledge?
Facebook Gaming is incredibly proud to be the founding partner of Raise the Game Pledge. And we see our role as being the amplifier for the great work that the pledge partners are doing. And for us, it's about more than conversation. In order for us to drive real change, action needs to take place. And every company should be pushing for greater diversity, inclusion, representation in their organizations. And that's what Facebook aims to do. And this is a journey. And the 3 pledge pillars that Raise the Game has are really meaningful and very actionable ways to do this.
I think first and foremost, at Xbox, our players are at the heart of everything that we do. We're committed to building stronger diversity in our employees, our studios and partnerships, because we know that better diversity in the people who create our games will lead to stronger diversity in our games. And ultimately that creates better experiences and a greater community of players. So that's why we signed up to the pledge, essentially.
So we signed up the Raise the Game pledge. We thought it really perfectly aligns with EA values as a company. At EA, our mission is to inspire the world to play. Inclusion and diversity are core to who we are. Our inclusive culture fuels our creative process and actually enables us to deliver amazing games and experiences for our players every day.
Firstly, at Jagex, we believe that higher levels of diversity and inclusivity have a positive impact on both our working culture and the games that we make. And ultimately, this leads to a better experience for not only our staff, but also our players and to our commercial success as a business. We recognise that there's a lot of work to be done across the industry, and we wanted to support and work towards industry-wide solutions that help promote more opportunities, wider perspectives with better representation in the games being developed to serve the widest possible audience and create value for all of the players across the globe. And like that, at the minute, that's more than 2.5 billion people of all ages and all backgrounds, and it's literally growing every day. We're seeing more growth than ever in the pandemic, with people having more time inside their houses. So we really felt like in order for us at Jagex to make meaningful change, that we have to challenge the industry to be better as a whole. And the only way that that's possible is through collaboration across different studios. So as a great supporter of our industry body, Ukie, and with our CEO, Phil Mansell, sitting on their board, we were able to work with Ukie really early on, and Dom in particular, very much from the beginning, and shape the pledges that are the gold standard for the industry. And for us, that was an unmissable opportunity. The pledge provided us with topical issues, shared resources, a forum to challenge these issues together, take learnings from other studios, and collaborate closely to make the industry more diverse and inclusive. Ukie touches on all levels of diversity, and therefore it helps us to make meaningful change and tackle a wide variety of issues with creative and positive solutions that stay true to our culture at Jagex. So we've been super pleased to be able to contribute and see the impacts that are being made and celebrate them together.
Awesome. I love the note about, kind of seeing the impact and then kind of celebrating off the back of that. It's great.
We signed up to the pledge because diversity awareness and inclusion within our workplace is critical to King's business, but I think also really important to the industry as a whole. And when I consider sort of King's position, we have a size and a scale where we have an opportunity on a platform or a wider platform to be able to make a real impact, not just for our Kingsters, but for the industry at large. We operate in a creative environment, and those environments require diversity of thought, and people's experiences and their approaches, and they bring that to work every day. And to whatever extent that we can promote that within our organization, it'll make us a better company, it'll make us a better industry, and we'll be able to better reflect our players.
Awesome. I love just a little thing. I love Kingsters. I thought that was so cute. Very, very cute. What has your company done against Pledge Pillar 1 in regards to improving hiring practices?
Look, we see a diverse and inclusive workforce as a business imperative, right? And at EA, we already had a very strong focus in increasing diversity in hiring. But in the last 12 months, we made it even a greater priority for us. We introduced Tap Recruit, which helps us with our inclusive job descriptions, and is now being used much more broadly across the organization, yielding us really higher diversity in the candidate pool. In addition, every business unit has a goal that ensures that there are diverse candidates at each stage of the hiring process. And these goals are, I would say, actively tracked and creating accountability that we didn't have previously. And that has resulted in higher rates in the diversity of our hires. So at EA, we also work closely with our strong ERGs, our employee resource groups, which in addition to enhancing our inclusive cultures and driving a more, employee engagement, ERGs assist the EA recruitment strategies, because then we can source new talent from underrepresented communities with their assistance. And I think that the biggest thing this year was the accountability for improving hiring practices, and it's now felt across the business. It's a collective objectives for all, and we already are seeing, positive results.
Wicked. I really love the point about accountability, because it's really easy to kind of talk about these things in an abstract sense, but to ground that in accountability is the much more important part. So yeah, that's really
I think that was the big shift that we did last year. So it's an evolution like everything else in this space. And we're very happy to be, on that journey.
We use a wide range of recruitment platforms at King. And in particular, one of the things that we have done is increased our presence at certain fairs that will attract a wide variety of diverse candidates, for example, women in tech. What we have found is that the consequence of the COVID pandemic, a lot of those events have been canceled because you can't have face-to-face interactions with individuals. So we've had to make some adaptations to the way that we communicate and speak to prospective candidates. One of the things we've also done is we use gender neutral language in all of our job descriptions. We also use blind resumes and CVs through the recruitment process. And we have found that it's not just about candidates that are in the pipeline or in the market today. It's also, what role do we have to play, and how can we encourage more talent to come into the pipeline sort of earlier on. So we invest in relationships with Ada College, as an example, to continue to promote the games industry as a prospective employer and an exciting place to work. We also sponsor a number of scholarships for women and non-binary employees, or potential employees, let's put it that way. We'll sponsor them to go to GDC, give them an opportunity to get onto the largest platform, or one of the largest platforms in the games industry. So far, we've sponsored 50 people to go to GDC of women and non-binary individuals, and we've hired in 31 of those individuals to be interns, and they've completed internships with us, and 21 of those individuals have actually converted into permanent Kingsters. Some of the stuff that we do with prospective employees is really cool, like the teams that come in, and the excitement out of the 15 people that we'll sponsor into GDC. It's just infectious. It really is an exciting program to be part of.
What's nice about it is it's more than just a kind of platitude. It's very much a tangible thing that you're doing, and the fact that it has such a great attach rate, I think, is just brilliant.
Yeah, and they can leverage that in a very, as you say, tangible way. They can take the knowledge and the experience that they gain at GDC and use it, whether it's within King or somewhere else, but they can use that as they start their careers. So that's a really exciting program.
So how has your company adapted to Pillar 2 in regards to building an inclusive culture?
Microsoft and Xbox run internal training programs that cover key topics which serve to increase inclusivity across the business. Allyship training is one, which is a mandatory scheme for all employees to establish shared language and empathy and understanding of how an ally can be in the workplace, or how to be an ally in the workplace. As a Black woman, I love that this is a compulsory requirement for all Microsoft staff, because it starts the right conversations, and that's the only way that we can influence change, I think. And then we have accessibility in the workplace, where employees and managers can earn a digital badge of honor and take courses in inclusive presentation skills, digital accessibility, creating accessible content, etc. So these are kind of key initiatives that we have.
We've introduced something unique that we call culture champions. And these are managers that went through dedicated inclusive leadership program that are now actually teaches important skills around coaching and conversation. And these managers are expected now to hold these conversations on their own. It's also part of their goal this year. One of the manager expectation is leading inclusively. And we've also given them training around unconscious bias, especially around, for example, our talent review process, ensuring that we have a really equitable experience and process for everyone. During the pandemic, which we're all still deep in, we also took a really conscious effort and approach to employees' well-being. We instigated a care leave policy, which we were mindful to make inclusive, both in language and in implementation, recognizing different types of families, different types of lives that people and our employees have.
We've actually done quite a bit in the space of inclusion. Two programs in particular that I would like to highlight. So firstly, we in 2019, we launched a program called Unconscious Bias. And that is a program that all Kingsters have gone through to try to build awareness around the way that people interact in the workplace, and those, as it says on the tin, those unconscious biases that people bring to their conversations, to their interactions with their colleagues. But then we took it to another level, and we also introduced a program called Inclusive Leaders. And that is for all of our managers within King to go through. And it's a day-long intensive workshop to dive more deeply into those biases and microaggressions that could come across in day-to-day interactions without you even having awareness of it. And how can we help our managers to create a more inclusive and very supportive environment across all of our organizations. So far, 94% of our managers have gone through Inclusive Leaders, and it's a real deep, immersive experience where we have actors come and showcase, what a typical interaction might look like. And then you can diagnose and pinpoint actually this behavior or this facial expression or crossing of arms could create a different type of experience for somebody on the other side of the table. And it really has gone far in trying to help our organization, our leaders understand the role that we play as managers, but also the kind of environment that we create. I mean, at the end of the day, King wants to be a place where people can come and do their best work, that they feel, welcome and supported. And this program goes to, speak to how we can create those types of environments within King.
Yeah, that just makes me smile because, having kind of been involved in this work at various levels, hearing the kind of passion that goes into that makes me very, very happy.
One of the other ways that we're able to promote inclusion within our organization is through our employee resource groups. These are organizations or teams within our organization that promote certain element or things that are very important to them. We have one that is dedicated to women, one that's dedicated to the LGBTQ community, one that's a multicultural group. And these are teams of people who we help to provide support for, and they bring a program and content to the organization. One of the things that I found last year that was particularly powerful that our employee resource groups brought to the discussion was in response to Black Lives Matter. And in response to that, we held listening circles where all Kingsters were invited to join, all levels of leadership across the organization globally, where we can open up a forum for people to talk about their own personal experiences. It was actually a very powerful engagement, and it was a vulnerable, open, and safe dialogue around things that matter to people everywhere, and that was one of the things that I thought was just really powerful that employee resource groups brought to the organization and did it in such an authentic and genuine and meaningful way. And what I found with that one in particular is it really kind of moved the needle of the conversation that we were having internally around inclusion, and just took it to a whole nother level. So by engaging in these training programs, by communicating and talking openly with our Kingsters, being transparent around our own personal feelings and values, we're able to bring those types of topics to the forefront.
Yeah, and even just hearing you talk about that, it was very open and honest, and that's what you want from something like that, something that is so sensitive. There needs to be a degree of vulnerability and care around it, and it sounds very much like that was the case.
So Pillar 2 had great engagement across Jagex. We're people and player obsessed, and we like everything we do to stay true to that. The key to having a successful culture is a culture that actively questions and challenges in a respectful, dignified, inclusive environment where we champion the importance of a diverse workforce while staying committed to promoting fairness and equality. At Jagex, we are absolutely delighted. It's not an understatement. I mean, we are over the top delighted that we've got such an active and strong employee-led D&I voice through various channels and support from Susie in particular, our voluntary D&I chair. And we also, like we spoke a little bit earlier about celebrating, like we love celebrating at Jagex, and we found many occasions to do so over the last year. Highlights for us included celebrating LGBT plus Pride Month, which brought RuneScape players their first ever Pride Parade, alongside lots of in-game fixes. And these fixes have been crucial in our fight to improve player community safety and foster an inclusive and safe environment where people feel safe from any kind of bullying or harassment. And ultimately this better reflects a worldwide audience and is mindful of appropriate language. It's vital to us that our studio and games are a place where people and players can feel included and safe. We also had some other events that took place in the studio. So we had a 2-day virtual conference called Level Up, which included a diversity track to educate and coach our employees, as well as to build and strengthen our partnerships, such as with Code Coven, Women in Games and the Girls Game Lab. Our objectives under this pillar will be to continue shaping an inclusive place to work by educating and inspiring people to take more personal responsibility for fostering and promoting diversity and inclusion. Educating and providing opportunities for people to understand and challenge and develop is key. We're on a journey at Jagex, and I think like diversity is a Jagex, not a destination, and therefore we commit to always look for ways to continuously improve. And we're looking forward to the next phase of our journey, and we'll be utilising things and schemes such as Kickstart to open doors for more talented people to enter our industry from a wider and more diverse background.
I love the kind of personal responsibility in there, because I think that is the key to like tangible change. So that's really, really brilliant. Do you have any examples of representation in games that you'd like to highlight against Pillar 3 in the pledge?
We've had a busy D&I year at Xbox. Last summer, we were so proud to publish Tell Me Why, which is now an award-winning game developed by Don't Nod. And it was the first AAA game with a lead trans character, and also featured representation of the North American indigenous Tlingit tribe and culture. We also address intersectionality by introducing numerous industry activities and actually consumer initiatives which sought to support marginalised groups. The first being Women of Xbox UK, which is our content series, which launched with a group of females working at Rare, Playground Games, Ninja Theory and other Xbox teams. I'm also a member. And the objective of the group is to celebrate the women who work in gaming, sharing our industry knowledge and experiences to hopefully inspire young women to seek a career in gaming. In September, we launched the first Xbox Academy workshop, which gives young people the chance to learn the basics of game design and development directly from Xbox Game Studio developers and leading educators, all for free. That was in partnership with the Microsoft Store, East London Arts and Music and Playground Games. And most recently in December, we launched Xbox Beyond Generations and the Reboxing Initiative, which basically helps gamers who've recently upgraded to a new console to gift their previous console to an elderly person in their life, whether it's their grandparent or a great aunt. And the idea is really that we recognise that the COVID lockdown and subsequent restrictions mean that the virtual world of gaming provides like an opportunity for gamers to maintain real world relationships and reconnect with their loved ones and maybe teach new skills. You know, I kind of thought that if my grandma, she didn't get to travel much when she was with us, so I would have loved to like fly around the world with her with Flight Sim, for example.
That is a really beautiful point. I mean, it's so timely, of course, but especially the note about, providing opportunities for older game players, because I feel like they're quite an overlooked audience, but then also providing an avenue for kids who might not otherwise be able to experience like game development classes. I think it's just like brilliant, because I think of where I grew up in Tottenham, nothing like that was like available for me, and so if kids have that option, I think it just further diversifies the workplace in the future for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you found being part of the Raise the Game community?
In one word, it's meaningful, right? It's a very unique and refreshing way of interacting with the games industry. And again, as a founding partner, we're really at the forefront by being a member of the industry steering group. And Raise the Game brings change makers from some amazing organizations together, and it creates opportunities to make really lasting impact. And that collaboration, Shay, is the key to inspiring thought and action. And we're really excited about what's to come.
Even just hearing you talk about it just makes me smile, because this is an industry I love and I'm passionate about, and so hearing that people from companies like Facebook Gaming are so passionate about this just makes my chilly little heart sing, honestly.
I think first I'm pleased to advise that Xbox and actually Microsoft's commitment to diversity and inclusion began before the global awakenings of last year, before the Black Lives Matter movement. We didn't jump on the hashtag fad. So it's always been front of mind for us, and it's the reason why we began some of our key programs. So Raise the Game actually echoed some of the Xbox key objectives and helped to anchor some of our existing D&I initiatives, providing helpful guidance and structure in our planning. I think that the D&I challenge is industry-wide. It's an industry issue, not just for Xbox. So it's really been beneficial to align with our pledge partners and peers to share best practices and key learnings, and also to coordinate our events and key beats as part of an integrated industry D&I strategic calendar.
As a leader in the industry, we feel a responsibility to show up and progress the conversation around inclusion and diversity. As part of that, we published our first ever annual impact report, where we're for the first time outlined what we're doing in this space and what we've done so far, plus what we still need to do. Again, acknowledging that we are not, in the ideal place we would like to be. This annual report, we hope it shows our commitment and demonstrate our commitment to the cause, but also encourages others to share data and practices and create transparency across the industry.
I've been in the games industry for a very long time, and I know how difficult something like this is for companies to try to tackle. And one of the things that I find really inspiring is the enthusiasm and the resources that Raise the Game is able to provide to even small and medium-sized companies. I mean, companies like King and Activision Blizzard, we have same types of challenges, and we have a larger scale, we have bigger teams, we have a bigger platform with which to work with it. But one of the things that I find particularly powerful with Raise the Game is that it speaks to companies at all different levels of their growth. It talks to employees and people in the industry at all levels of their career journey, and that for me has been very inspiring.
We've really enjoyed being part of the community. We wanted to raise the game, and having an opportunity to work with like-minded studios has been ace. It's created connections for us, and it's also helped us reflect and determine our next steps on running D&I initiatives in our studio. So one thing that came out of the relationships we built and some understanding we had is a phase that we're entering into now, which is a studio D&I diagnostic with the help of Rena and Janet from Voice at the Table. Some other highlights would be around the insight that being part of that community has unlocked for us. There's so many opportunities for open and honest exploratory conversations in the roundtables, and it's been really inspiring to see so many studios really going above and beyond to make the games industry a more inclusive place to work holistically. The collaboration and networking is something that we absolutely see as key to success, and the pledge has also adapted fantastically to the challenges of COVID for all participants, ensuring agendas and topical issues are addressed and providing external speakers and introductions to potential future partnerships, like I said, some of which we've been able to take up. And it's been really exciting to see it grow with more pledge partners signing up all the time. So yeah, it's been great for us.
And finally, what is your main piece of advice to a company who are considering joining the pledge but haven't yet taken that step?
It's a journey, right? And I'd say, 1, be ready to learn. 2, keep an open mind. 3, engage fully with Ukie and the other pledge partners, and just get excited about all the amazing work that's being done by these partnerships and the things that we're driving. And again, it's amazing to be part of something that is so inspiring, and you get to see what can happen in the games industry when we all come together. So that's what I'd say is my piece of advice.
Love that, especially the note about being excited about something, because, especially at this time of the year, there isn't a lot to be excited over. So, finding something that you can like throw yourselves behind and really, become a part of this big community and have fun doing it, I think is just wonderful.
It is. The games industry has been so, advanced in so many different ways. And I think coming together, doing the right thing for diversity and inclusion and representation. Again, those 3 pillars are really actionable and they're really representative of the change that needs to happen. And if we all come together, this industry has done so much and we can do a lot more. And I'm excited about that.
So my advice is that it's okay to be at a different point in the journey as it relates to diversity and inclusion. And I would encourage any company to kind of take that first step. Everyone is, and all these businesses are at different stages. What the benefit of Raise the Game is that you have a community around you of other companies that are similarly committed to the mission of making the games industry more inclusive and more diverse. And so my advice would be to join that journey, to be a part of making change happen in the industry worldwide. And this is a great first step to doing that.
Look, I would say just join us. Look, I mean, no one company can do this alone. And ultimately, if the industry will work together to bring, genuine and lasting change, it will only be done if we're all in it. We can make this sector even more welcoming and inclusive and diverse. We are all at different places on our journey. We recognize that, but the diversity of our players is ever increasing. So something has to shift. And if we are to fully represent different experiences around the world in our games and our communities, then their voices and experiences had to be heard and represented authentically. And this is why we're doing this.
I love that. What a great note to end on. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh.
Didn't I say they had loads of insight to give us? They certainly did not disappoint. I hope you're having a wonderful time watching this showcase. We're going to take a quick break, but in the meantime, you have some wonderful messages from Pledge partners and supporters to look forward to. So stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Nigel. I'm the Myamada co-founder and organizer of the Gamepad events.
I'm Tazzy, I'm an online content creator and host of Gamepad.
So we've been running Gamepad since 2015, first with physical events up until 2020 when, so we then started doing online events. And the idea behind Gamepad is to promote inclusion and diversity in the people that play games, the games we play, and the people that make the games.
So we have lots of activities available at our physical Gamepad events. Some of the games that we include at those events are Just Dance, Mario Kart, Minecraft, Tekken, BlazBlue, and more. And during our online events, we have a sort of a little friendly tournament which involves Swim Sanity, Rocket League, Overcooked, Brawlhalla, and we hope to include more games in the future.
Yeah, and the idea for that is to open up awareness of career paths in the industry for young people that we work with and that take part in the event, as well as just general aspiring video games professionals. So as well as the content that happens on the stream, we also provide a platform for young people to take part in work experience in putting together our Gamepad events. This means they get the opportunity to work with our team and just get real world experience that they can take forward as they make their way in the games industry. We've got a lot more planned for 2021, so you're welcome, invited to our future events, and please get in touch with us to find out how we can work together to make sure that the future of the industry is as diverse as we can make it. I've forgotten what comes after that. Is that it? I think that was it.
welcome back! Now that we're nice and situated and calm, it's time to hear about the state of representation in games currently from some key industry figures involved in diversity and inclusion initiatives. I'm joined by a brilliant lineup of panelists who are contributing to this industry and making it a much better and inclusive place to work. If I could have you all introduce yourselves, because that would be lovely, and also I would never be able to do it justice, starting with you, Sarah, if that's okay, putting you on the spot.
Hi. Yeah, oh God, I have to go first. Cool. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a community manager at Splash Damage. Relatively new to the games industry. This is actually my first role and I only started back in September, but I've done some podcasting, I've done some writing, and basically spent the past 10 years in marketing, just in other industries. But yeah, finally made the jump over to the games industry, which has been a lifelong goal, and yeah, super happy to be here.
Amazing. And next, you, Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat Welsford. I'm a digital analyst at Square Enix. I also help run London Gamers and SavePoint as well, which are both two groups that are kind of helping to try and boost diversity, both in gaming as a leisure activity and gaming as in the industry. And yeah, I also just balance lots of pies. This is my second role in the games industry. I previously worked at Bossa Studios as a marketing manager, and then prior to that I worked in e-commerce as an analyst, marketing manager, kind of switching between the two all the time.
Brilliant stuff. And next up, Anissa.
Hi, I'm Anissa Sanusi. I'm a UI UX designer at Roll7 currently, and I'm also the founder of Limit Break Mentorship, which is a mentorship program for underrepresented genders in the UK games industry. Can you tell I've said that like multiple times at this point? But yeah, so we run a mentorship program, and this year, 2021, will be our third year running. And it's going to be, I'm very confident to say that we are the biggest mentorship program in the UK games industry. Like, we had upwards of 300 people last year, and we're expecting that number to just grow every year from here on.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Chris, if you could.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Chris. I recently was producer at Rogue Sun, and I'm founder of Many Cat Studios, which is helping bridge the gap between people with disabilities and the games industry.
Awesome. So I feel like I say this about games every single year, but 2020 was a fantastic year for games. We've seen them touch on like a plethora of different themes, like across the board, especially compared to games like 10 or 20 years ago. What is your opinion on the state of representation in games at the moment? It's a big question, but anyone is welcome to tackle it.
I can jump in, I think. Yeah. Otherwise, no one will. For me, I think it really depends on the genre of game and the type of representation we're looking at. So for me, the first time I ever felt actually represented in a game, funnily enough, was Pokemon Crystal back in 2001. It was the first Pokemon game that actually let you play as a girl. And that was just mind-blowing at the time. And obviously that's something that's kind of stuck with the series right through to now. I also used to play a ton of the Final Fantasy games, because at the time, like 20 years ago, they were the only games that actually had multiple really, really good female characters. But I don't really think they've grown much. And you could also argue that with 15, they maybe took a step backwards, but that's a whole nother conversation. But then a genre that I've actually started to get into quite recently is the multiplayer online FPS genre with Apex Legends, with Overwatch. I mean, the representation in those two games is mind-blowing compared to how the genre was 20 years ago. It was very much like girls never play those games, whereas now you've got non-binary characters, you've got gay characters, you've got older women in Overwatch, you've got different body types with like Mei and Zaya, and it's absolutely incredible. And then I also play an absolute ton of Destiny 2, and again, you've got some really fantastic characters with like Anna Bray, Osiris and Saint 14 being a gay couple. So yeah, it's kind of been such a change in that one genre. But I think overall, the industry's done really well, I think, in terms of female representation, different sexualities, different genders. But I think in terms of like neurodiverse characters with disabilities, there's still a lot to be done there.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question actually to Chris, because obviously that's what some of your work focuses on in terms of the disability representation. Where are we at the moment?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of not good enough is the answer. It's funny enough, had a talk about a couple of years ago with others in the industry about sort of representation of disabilities in games, and sort of trying to think of like good examples was a challenge in itself, and we shouldn't have to be at that point where you have to sit down for a while and think about it before you can actually go, oh, that character from so and so game had a disability. It shouldn't be that hard. And yeah, it's even when I was thinking about sort of the history of games and actually how well we're sort of developing, it worries me that disabilities is always kind of the last one of the list to sort of tackle and be like, oh, have we thought about this yet? Is this one relevant for now or whatever? And I always think it should just be a part of the whole collective of inclusivity and diversity to show it in the games, because there's so many interesting stories to be told. I mean, there hadn't really been many stories yet told for disabilities or neurodiversity at the forefront of player characters, or even just like the primary characters in a game. So I'm kind of excited that that could be a possibility. But I'm sure we'll talk about a bit more about what we hope for the futures and what we should recommend.
Well, funny you should say that, because my next question was, thinking about your own work and background, what kind of games and themes would you like to see explored in the next couple of years?
We start? Yeah, I mean, I'm hard of hearing. I wear hearing aids in both ears, so I quite happily identify as disabled. And even just for my one disability, that I think is quite easy for me to, I don't want to say overcome, but to sort of live with day to day. I've got relatively easy disabilities to sort of portray in games, and a disability that actually becomes really interesting when you start thinking about what you could do with it. So I'm always sort of like, in my workplaces and that, to be like, oh, let's like, if the character was deaf, you then suddenly have this, you can use like, audio to a unique perspective of like, cutting out sounds and stuff like that to really like, if you did things like horror games and have your player character who, is deaf or, visually impaired, and suddenly you've got a sense gone in a game that you're so you're looking everywhere to not be scared and frightened by whatever's out there, that it's actually becomes an interesting mechanic that developers can use. But again, it's that sort of talking to anyone and they go, oh, that's really interesting, but rarely do I see people actually turning it into actions. So I'm still trying to kick people up the butts to start using it and start thinking about the sort of diversity of life can really create a diversity of like playing experiences across any sort of genre of game. So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm sort of getting people to think about at the moment. It's just to think, you have character A, but what if they were with this sort of additional need or this scenario? And yeah.
Yeah, I was going to chime in with we were just having this discussion, me and a few other developers yesterday, about the diversity of character creations, and how just only recently there has been strides with certain areas. Like there was a big thing with Sims 4 where they reached out to their community and then the streamers, and then they made that character creation a lot more robust. But on the flip side, I also realized that not many character creations kind of offer, I want to say, there's like low hanging fruit, things that you could easily add in, stuff like a hijab, let's say. A lot of those things are just not at all thought about. And even from a cultural point of view, a hijab alone could be different based on where you're from. Say, if you're from Southeast Asia or from in the Middle East, or even in England or in North America, like you can tell where someone is from based on how they wear their headscarf. So there's a lot of ways that we can play around, again, trying to represent people and the different types of players. And also, you can't really talk about inclusivity without talking about people who are disabled as well. Even stuff like hearing aids and a little cochlear implant thing, which I think I freaked out when I saw a character with a little implant in Toy Story 3, like a little boy, because my nephew is hard of hearing. And I was like, oh, that'll be great. Like, he's going to love seeing that, just the little joys that you pick up in seeing yourself. But yeah, there's a lot of space left that we can do outside of just the usuals. Like we're just about catching up there. There's this thing there's this book called Atomic Habits where they say you can improve yourself by just doing like 1% better from yesterday. So like each day you improve 1% and the graph kind of slowly goes upwards. But for the first like so long, you don't feel like there's a huge improvement at all. But at one point, it just goes straight, like all the way up. And I feel like that's the same with the games industry in a sense that like we are doing good, we're doing better, but it's kind of like a 1% better. And we've only just started talking about all of these issues, like, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. It's definitely like louder and more prominent now, but we're not going to see the fruits of it for at least another few years. So it feels like I think some people might be like, it's too slow, it's not enough, but you know what, we have to keep going. At some point, it's just going to be so normal that we don't even realize that it was an issue before. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to double into that and say, like, there's lots of things where, like, you go into a game and you see 40 white t-shirts and you're like, cool, is there a hijab or something which, like, could be useful? And, like, you see all these customizations and it's like there's little things. But there's also the bigger things, like, I was trying to think of one game that I can think of that has a wheelchair in it, and the only one I can ever really go to is Overcooked, which is fantastic, wonderful, but that's something where you do need to code it in at the very start. And with game developments taking 5 years, 10 years, whatever, when we started thinking about these things 5 years ago, now is the time for us to think, okay, well, we're designing a game. Can we build a system that allows one of our characters to be in a wheelchair? Can we build a system that allows one of our characters to do this or do that? And some of these things are a bit more time consuming. It's things that we should look at and think about kind of up front, like building a game with a character with a hearing impairment as like a kind of a horror mechanic. Like, we can build that in, but it is something where we do need to think about it. We shouldn't look at these things and go, oh, like, we should look at the easy wins and go, these are things we should do now. And we should look at the more difficult wins and go, these are things we should be designing for in our gameplay. I say that as someone that doesn't do game design, and I know that all the game designers are working really hard on this, and there's obviously limitations with engines and stuff, but it is things that can be done. Like, indie games are putting these characters in, and I feel like AAA can and should look to the indie games and look and see what they're doing and take that as a benchmark of the minimum we should be doing, not as they're doing it so we don't have to. I think it's also a case of, like, I'd really love to see more kind of trans stories being explored, and more, I said this a couple of days ago, personally for me, like, bisexual characters rather than player sexual characters, I think is something which I would really love to see more of. Like, with the Mass Effect remasters coming up, obviously there's certain characters in that are canonically straight and some that are canonically gay, and then there's some that are canonically bi, and I haven't played Mass Effect, I have no idea if that's all true, but I'd like to see more of that going across a lot more games where your character's sexuality is your choice, but the NPC sexuality is written into their story and it forms their character. I know that, like, this year we've had Tell Me Why, which is just a fantastic, like, trans story that was, from what I've kind of seen, what I've heard, what I've played, like, it was fun and it was enjoyable, and it wasn't just, this is kind of pigeonholing. But I think we need to see more of that, and I think we can work better to have, like, more fun and interesting characters that are not just white straight men in games, because we have that scope and we have that range, but it also comes from getting the right developers in, getting the right people in to the studios to make these games as well.
Totally.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, somebody sort of advised me in the past, like, of not being afraid to make mistakes, especially when it comes to portraying a certain character, whether from their background, whether it's got disability or, a person of color. It's like, it's better to go through those mistakes and start learning, like, how to represent these people than to sort of omit it because it's too hard or too scary, or you're afraid of the backlash that you might get. It's better to sort of keep going out there and keep trying and showing people that we're improving, we're thinking about it, and it's important for us to show these characters in the game than to just go, oh, well, we're worried about what marketing will have for all the backlash.
That's a really good point, actually, because I think that fear does genuinely stop people from doing stuff. And I think, based on that and based on conversations you've all had and, projects you've worked on, do you think we're likely to see, these ideas and themes like implemented in the next couple of years?
I mean, that was kind of what I wanted to actually kind of build on in sort of the last question is obviously, there's so much work that can be done around sort of like character creators. But one thing I've really seen is that even when a game has interesting character creators, that often, or player choice characters, that doesn't carry through to the marketing. I mean, obviously there's a lot we can say about cyberpunk and representation, but just to keep it really simple, it has a really, really, really in-depth character creator. Yet all of the marketing was just the very, very standard white man with a buzz cut. He was the one that was all over all of the buses and the bus stops and all of the murals. Yet the whole point of the cyberpunk genre is to make anyone, any kind of character, and that just wasn't reflected. It's the same thing with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Obviously, you can choose between male and female either. The female either is the canon choice, yet she was in none of the marketing. A couple of friends of mine who play games fairly casually, they're not part of the industry, but they know that I absolutely love Assassin's Creed. I'm like 70 hours into Valhalla at the moment. And they really wanted to get me something like a piece of merch from the game for Christmas. And even they noticed that female Ivor is on none of the merch either. And so I think that's really important to kind of make sure that if we are building that representation into games, that it's then being reflected in the marketing. Obviously, Mass Effect was just mentioned as well. I think that's kind of showing that we're starting to go that way. Obviously, FemShep was kind of retroactively advertised in the last trailer that they've done for the Legendary Edition, in having her appear in the first and second game, whereas I think in marketing originally she didn't start to appear in marketing until the third one. And that's great. Granted, they already know she's a super popular character, but it's nice to see that it's baby steps at least.
Yeah, baby steps, they're the steps, in one way or another. And so like we've sort of touched on, it's obvious that the industry needs to do more with regards to positive, varied representation in games. What else can the industry do in order to achieve this? Like I said, we sort of touched on it with building it in from the beginning and not being afraid to make mistakes. But are there any other things you can think of?
I think it comes from how your team is built up as well. The fact that you get those very voices that can sort of point out a completely different viewpoint to what your own may be. Recently we had the Ukie diversity census to sort of paint a bit of a picture of what the industry currently looks like. And so we know we've still got a lot of work to do to improve it, to get people from all walks of life to make games. And if we have that, that's kind of a nice sort of base level to create diverse games, because you're getting these interesting stories from people's lives and talents coming together and to make something that's a bit more interesting than generic white guy character shoots everybody. It's just I've honestly learned a lot more from people that come from a completely different lifestyle to me, or from a different part of the country or the world. And it's always interesting to sort of talk about those life experiences and how it kind of comes through in your work, and how how those things, the skills built up come together. It's kind of really quite unique when making games, I think.
I feel like when people talk about the games industry, like there's two types of industry that we're looking at. There's the developers, like the workers who create the assets, program the games, and do the marketing. But they're also not the people who are making the decisions. There's always someone up top, that usually a C-suite or a person in a suit, and they're the ones who's like, nah, let's go for this instead of that. And it's kind of a cycling story now, if especially in the games industry news outlet, where you would hear past and current, usually secret employees, they don't want to show off their identity when they talk about company culture, and how there's always that one guy who kind of to be blunt, like ruins it for everybody else, including the direction of the games. And that to me is frustrating, because we could continuously funnel in more diverse people into the games industry, but if the power structure only benefits those people, the diverse developers will burn out, because we're constantly, advocating for this and that. We're constantly championing everything that we want to see in our games. But if we don't get heard, then we're just going to get tired. So I would say, like, on top of that, we should definitely start promoting more diverse people, more women, more people of color. Give them funding. The number one thing is that it's great to have like mentorship programs or work experience or things like that. That's great. But ultimately, give them money to start their own companies, and they can make the games that we all just really want to see. And if you're a AAA company, promote them. Like, they're there.
I definitely love that point about the funding and that. I would never have started my own company had I not had that sort of access to, funding through like the university and like sort of these like social enterprise things that were looking for people with disabilities to start things up. So I was really grateful to go, oh, actually, I've got a really good chance of getting this funding rather than a very slim, less than a percentage chance to go up against, sort of I guess the heavy hitters / big boys of the business. So giving more opportunities for funding for, even if it's just targeted at a specific group, that's a good thing, because it encourages that group to start, either companies or, start making their own games and not be afraid to be like, well, how am I going to pay the bills? I can't just, have a hobby of making games if, the lights will go out, or, there's not going to be food in the fridge. It's sort of getting rid of those life issues of actually getting on with making games. If we get rid of all that sort of financial stress and the cost of living, then the opportunities will be a lot better for people, I think. Definitely.
Kat, I feel like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, this is so much like we always talk about like the accessibility from like a diversity, like from a racial, from a sexual, from a gender, from a disability perspective, but there is also the other one of like income, and like people do need food and it needs to go on the table. And I think that's something which I again still feel we have a lot of way to go on that, on both in game and out game. But people who can't afford to lose a job because they're worried because of lack of jobs, because they're worried that they're on part-time contracts, all this kind of stuff, that means that those people are less likely to speak up, to possibly rock the boat and do this stuff. And it's also a case of, from the other side, like, if you are somebody who kind of looks at the industry and goes, well, I see myself a lot of the time in games, what can I do? It's about kind of like making sure that you listen to other people, but also advocate for them yourself. Go out and, like, if you're the only person in the room and it's just a room that's just full of like CEOs, and you see that there's no people of color there, you see that there's no women there, like, advocate for them and say, this is something which I see wrong. Like, it's something which I feel has happened, like when I've not been in a room and somebody said, no, we need Kat in here because this is her specialism, but also because she knows this stuff. And having that outside person going, yeah, we need more diversity, is just like such a kind of like big thing. Like, if there's no women in a room, if there's no like people of color in a room, if there's no people who are disabled in a room, sometimes it's because the people in the room don't even think about bringing those in. And if you're the person that's sitting there going, actually, yeah, this is something odd, like, speak up and advocate, because then we can bring more people into that room and have a nicer conversation. And I like that.
I like that. I love how wholesomely you ended that. And that's a pretty good jumping off point into my last question. And I'm very aware that I'm putting a lot on your shoulders with this, so you're welcome. What piece, like, if you had to distill your advice into one piece of advice you could throw out there to make sure that people approach stuff like accessibility, diversity, and inclusion properly, what would that be?
So I've got a sound bite, I guess. So the phrase, I used to be a fitness instructor, and one of the phrases that I was taught when I was a fitness instructor is, leave your ego at the door. And I think that applies here as well. You have to accept that you don't know everything. Even if you think you're coming at something with the best intentions, you may not know everything to actually make that change happen effectively. So I think you really need to know that, you're not going to know everything, and that you need to be talking to the people from those areas that you're trying to ensure representation for, whether that's internally. If you haven't got anyone internally, firstly, why? Secondly, find someone external and pay them. But yeah, essentially just kind of realize that you're not always going to be right. You don't always know everything, but don't take it personally. As I said, leave your ego at the door and come ready to learn from people who do know what they're talking about.
I was going to say mine's all very similar, is like, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. You can iterate, you can put you can make little changes and just try things. Like, if it goes wrong, then that's okay and you can learn from it. But be prepared to learn from it if you do make a mistake. I think that's the big one, is like, try things. Obviously, get in as much advice as you can, but in the end, there's always going to be a couple of people who disagree. Like, you could get 2 people in a room who agree about 99% of things, and they might disagree about one thing. But try things, learn from people, and don't be scared to try things because you're worried that you're going to scare people or worry people. Like, people can deal with change. Everybody is more resilient than we give ourselves credit for, especially from what we've seen this year.
I definitely like the point that somebody's given me in the past was have more than one person. So if you're doing a story about disabilities, maybe put in the game more than one person who has that disability so that they can sort of talk about it and discuss their experiences, because people with the same disabilities have completely different life experiences and stories. So don't just put the token character in, maybe have more than one, maybe have a whole group of people that have this characteristic, and see how that plays out in terms of the narrative or etc. Because that, I think, it will be a lot more interesting than trying to do the I guess the checkbox of yeah, we've included that, that's fine, then move on. And really it could potentially go down like a stereotype route, or a caricature of what it really could be or is. So definitely think about putting more than one thing, or if you have a group of people, that sort of consultant thing of don't just hire one disability consultant, hire a whole group, hire various people, so they can get a full viewpoint of the accessibility need, or the narrative in the game, because like I said, everybody has that different experience, and you might learn different things from different people.
Yeah, I'm basically going to build up on what everyone has said. Complete 100%. Like, there's a thing that when there was a point where I went through a little bit of depression, and one of the best advice that I had was, if it's something that's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. Similarly to any type of diversity or inclusivity efforts, like, something is always better than nothing. So therefore, just try it out. And also, if just the whole idea of diversity and inclusivity feel like a really big thing that you're like tacking onto the game or product that you're making, like that's not the easiest way to think about it. That feels like it's a huge weight on your shoulders. Like, the best way to think about it is like the tiny little votes or decisions that you do along the way. Let's say for a feature, you just have a bit more of this and a bit more of that, and it happens to benefit accessibility and it happens to benefit diversity. So it's like in smaller drip feeding it into like your day-to-day. It's not like a thing that you put like a whole month worth of work into towards the end of the thing. It's intertwined into the fabric of your process. It's just part of everything put together. So don't think about it as like this big unmovable wall. You're not moving it, you're kind of building it brick by brick slowly.
It certainly is awe-inspiring to hear from people who are so passionate about the work that they do to make the industry a better place for all of us. So once again, thank you to our amazing panelists. So at the top of the show, I mentioned something about trailers, and I'm not going to let you down. That's not the kind of person that I am. So coming up for you, we've got some trailers that embody Pledge Pillar 3, which is all about reflecting greater diversity in our work. So let's have a look.
Style and class have come to the Apex Games, and her name is Loba.
Enough flirting. Save it for when we win.
But don't let looks fool you. Her glamorous appearance is matched only by her lethality.
I'm always dressed to kill.
The most notorious thief in the Outlands, no item is safe when Loba's on the hunt.
All that loot looks heavy. Let me help you with that.
Her fashionable jump drive tech allows her to teleport and swipe valuable gear.
Now for the best part, looting your corpse.
Or quickly maneuver around her enemies.
You made the mistake of taking what I wanted.
Enhanced vision allows her to see high-tier loot through structures and at distance.
I know what I like, and I know how to get it.
Loba's ultimate take is powered by her black market staff.
Shop's open for business.
This sophisticated boutique allows her squad to cycle through all loot in the vicinity and pick their pleasure.
I came here for revenge, but I'll stay for the treasure.
The Apex Games have never looked so good.
A wolf never gives up her prey.
And hello to you from the home of football here in London, Wembley Stadium. I'm Derek Ray, and with me in the commentary position is the former Arsenal and England fullback Lee Dixon, and getting ready for a potentially thrilling contest. It's England against the United States. So the initial 11 for the home side. And this is a formation most people in the game are very familiar with nowadays.
Yeah, most coaches are adopting this formation. What it does give you is 2 holding players in front of the back 4 to protect them, but it also gives you 3 supporting players to that central striker.
And this confrontation is underway. Jordan Nobbs. Here's Paris. Ellen White. Not advantage with them. Referee says play on. Might go ahead. That is a tackle and a half. Now with Morgan. Oh, what an opportunity. Crucial intervention just then amid impending danger. Ellen White. Chance to finish. And there it is, 1-0. Their efforts have been rewarded. And look at the celebrations.
Come on. Me again. Allow me to pick up where I left off. The biggest phenomenon, and I think it's with the pen. They just wanna talk that stuff till I hit them with the real names. They want us to say something, but you don't wanna hear it.
We spoke on the phone. B set this up. About the game?
What game? Hey, I'm just messing with you. What do you think we're doing here?
Good one.
You've been making a lot of noise. And not just B. Kaka told me to look out for you.
Really? He said that?
Kaka talking about me?
No. Me, obviously.
We've been waiting for you. Excited for a good game. You need to warm up? Take your time.
Thanks.
Some big players on that team.
Izzy's all about technique, but his team is about power. So keep the ball moving and don't let it get physical. You want to warm up or be good?
Up to you.
thought we knew everything.
I thought packing up the past would give us closure.
We were wrong.
Just because things have changed doesn't mean you can't work it out. Your sister's never gonna give up on you.
So how can we make it right? Together.
Gather your crew and get ready to plot a course for even more rewarding adventures as we explore Sea of Thieves Seasons. In Sea of Thieves, each season brings players 3 months of new features, events, and updates, as well as a whole new way to progress and earn rewards as you play the game. And while your journey towards Pirate Legend still depends on your reputation with the trading companies, earning renown throughout a season depends on living your best pirate life. All of the deeds you do in Sea of Thieves will help you to progress through a season, from sailing to a new island, battling sinister skellies with your crew, to digging up precious loot. You'll earn renown for the adventures you undertake and the challenges you complete, all helping you to progress through the 100 levels available each season. As you climb through the levels, you'll unlock fantastic rewards, including gold, doubloons, and cosmetics for your pirate and your ship. And Pirate Legends can unlock additional exclusive cosmetics too, giving them ample opportunity to lord their legendary status over other pirates. And if you're eager to progress even faster, you can do so by overcoming trials. Trials are a series of varied challenges within each season that all pirates will be able to take part in. They'll give you a whole boatload of new adventures to embark upon, with plenty of opportunities to prove yourself as a master of the seas. And you can track your progress throughout a season by exploring the new Pirate Log menu. Here you'll be able to view your level, all of your unlocked and upcoming rewards, as well as information on all available trials. Each season in Sea of Thieves will last for around 3 months, during which we'll continue to release new events, daily deeds, and regular rewards. So there's always something to do for pirates of all persuasions. Each season will bring new updates to the game too, with quality of life changes, new additions to the Pirate Emporium, and all new features, events, or voyages. All players, regardless of skill level, playstyle, or crew size, can enjoy seasons in Sea of Thieves. And unlocking the rewards for all 100 levels is free. Just play the game, earn renown, and reap the rewards. And for pirates that want to get a little extra for their escapades, you can buy the new Seasons Plunder Pass. This optional add-on gives you access to 11 premium rewards from the Pirate Emporium each season, and includes some never-before-seen items. Cosmetics that debut in the Plunder Pass will remain exclusive throughout the season, before eventually heading to the shelves of the Pirate Emporium as separate purchases. The Plunder Pass is available for purchase at any point throughout the season, and any rewards that you've earned enough renown to unlock are available right away. So get ready to experience your adventures in a whole new way and revel in the rewards of living the pirate's life as we begin our newest journey with Sea of Thieves Seasons.
Not too far away, in the land of Astoria, there lived a young girl named Robin. She was kind and loved taking care of the world around her, but inside she was still curious about the world that lay beyond. Suddenly, a terrifying noise echoed from beyond the village gate. Robin was surrounded by smoke and cinders. She needed to keep everyone safe. I can't let her get away. Robin pursued the beast with little thought for her own safety. I have to find out why a dragon attacked my village. Her hope was shattered. Why is this happening? It isn't fair! I felt so confused. A cold determination gripped her. She was ready.
Please state your name and introduce yourself briefly.
Heya! The name's Mayday. I wield a guitar, and he is
Zook.
And he plays the
Drums.
And together we're Bunk Bed Junction. Woo! Hey Zook, there sure has been quite a lot of electronic music in the city lately.
That's true, May.
But you know, this city still lacks a certain something, don't you think?
Absolutely, May.
Luckily for you guys, we have the perfect fix. Why don't you tell him, Zook?
Why, May, we're Bunk Bed Junction, and we're going to Junka, in their bunka. No, wait, it's
That's right, Zook. We're gonna bunka, we're gonna junka, and we're gonna bam in your faces. We're bringing back rock. This long-forgotten art used to be the backbone of Vinyl City, you know? So be ready to listen to our super tasty riffs of...
Okay, cut. That's a good take.
Oh, that's it? Ugh, you gotta be kidding me. I've heard this a crap billion times.
I think we just got schooled by a kid.
Whatever, we're so going to stop this noise right now. Feel the impulse! Yeah! Let me show you!
Whenever you say Spider-Man, you always mean the other one. You're Spider-Man. You can fix this. Your way.
This is my time. I'm seizing the moment cause I gotta go for the time's gone. Ain't scared of the dark cause I'm bringing the light when the night's long. This the moment I'ma make it mine. This is my time.
It's too cold to change out here. Dang, I'm late for Mom's rally.
Subway card, check. You got the house key? Yeah, I got it.
Come on, we're gonna be late. Hey! Dude, I am so filling your suit with snow. Are you still wearing your suit?
Yeah, you know, just in case.
I've got an idea.
I need something they can cross. No! I can stop this! Just a little closer!
Tell me.
Sweet Jesus.
Doctor?
What are you doing in here?
What happened here?
No! Abby, don't look.
Dad!
Dad! No! No! No!
Hey,
Hey,
everything all right?
I found Joel's brother. He's at a settlement out in Wyoming. I'm leaving tomorrow.
They're coming after us.
You remember me? Yeah. You remember me. Where's Abby?
I'm not giving up, my friend.
I'm not gonna fight you. It's up to you. You killed my friends.
They got what they deserved.
I'm not gonna do this again.
I want what you want,
Motherfucker!
but not at any cost. Happy. We can choose to be happy.
You don't know me.
PlayStation.
Hey,
come on, wake up! Wake up! Ah, it's broken. That's broken.
We can't change the past, Peter. But we can learn from it.
I thought you could handle it.
I can.
Before we fool ourselves into remembering it too kindly.
We'll make a soldier of you yet, Pete, my boy. Hello? Hello, can anyone hear me? Come in.
As you know, I have some friends in high places. I need to be absolutely sure we are on our guard.
Our only hope is for you to find a friendly out there. If you don't do this, we're both done for. You hear me? We are dead.
Let me tell you about a very special place. A planet we call Craft World.
Oh, I do love a warm welcome! Ready to make history?
Like I really should. I'm up on your mind, feeling pretty good. Don't stop it. You in my way. Thank you so much. Oh, wow, okay. What you want me to do? I don't know.
You're just adorable. That's why I saved you for last. Craft World will be mine!
PlayStation.
Together, we built order out of chaos. Each trial, each tribulation, we have overcome. Now we live in an age of unprecedented peace. We have prevailed thanks to her. Let her ascension serve as proof of our righteousness. It is in her honor that we strive for chorus.
with us.
The deep reaches out to you. Will you take its hand?
Our world has a rhythm. We all sense it. But only a few truly feel it. It is found in the smallest moments. In every step of a perilous journey. In the symmetry of ritual. In the bonds we share. And in moments of stillness. It teaches us to look beyond the expected. To be a light in dark places. To seek answers. And to stand watch over our world. Our world has a rhythm. We all sense it. But only a few truly feel it.
Some brilliant trailers there. It's a bit of a bittersweet feeling, but we've actually come to the end of the showcase. Thank you all so much for watching. It has been a blast hosting this. Remember, if you haven't done so already, it's so simple signing up to the pledge. All you have to do is head on over to raisethegame.com, make the pledge. That's it. That's all there is to it. I have been your host, Shay Thompson. It's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully I will speak to you again soon. Take care.